So here we have Amay, who has done his Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering and Computer Science from UC Berkeley. Why don't you tell us, how did you prepare for the admission procedure at Berkeley?
Sure, sounds good. So I guess the answer to that is that I guess I didn't really prepare specifically for Berkeley, or at least I can't give you specific steps I took for Berkeley because um, the sort of UC process is a little bit different from what you'd see at other universities. But in general, sort of the last 2 years, I would say, maybe 11th grade and then half of 12th grade, to prepare for college applications in general. Like a lot of it was just, creating that list of colleges that I wanted to apply to, looking at, doing more research into each of them, trying to see if they were actually a good fit for what I wanted to do. Um, Looking at what sort of application procedures were there for each of them. That actually takes a lot more time than people give it credit for at the beginning, especially even once you identify all the colleges you want to apply to and look at their admissions procedure, you'll see that there are probably a lot more essays and a lot more questions that you have to answer that you didn't originally bargain for. And often in the process of filling out the application, you'll realize that maybe a certain school doesn't look like the best fit for you or something like that. So a lot of iteration goes into these application processes, which is where I think most of 11th and 12th grade was spent. Not so much in just the resume building stuff, but also just in sort of the, you know, application process. In terms of sort of what I did to give myself a good chance of getting in, um, definitely the few things you want to do is it always helps to have sort of a good idea of what you would like to do with your college education, or at least what you would like to study. Um, when you're applying, just because it'll give you more of a direction. It's obviously like many people do this, many people will go in without too much of an idea. Maybe they have a broad idea of what they want to do, but they'll go in undeclared, and that's fine as well. But it definitely helps quite a bit to narrow your focus and figure out exactly what it is you want to do. I knew quite early that I wanted to do something in the fields of like computer science, electrical engineering. Most of my focus was on robotics. So from pretty much from like 8th grade or 9th grade, I was taking robotics classes, and I was doing sort of taking part in these robotics competitions, which helped me a lot. And that was probably one of the main things that I highlighted in my application, which helped me get into these colleges. The other thing is that academics are also super important. I made sure that I kept up with my grades. It was obviously 11th grade is one of the most important ones of those to look at. That's where sort of colleges look at it and decide, okay, like what is this person's academic sort of, how well is this person faring academically at their current stage in life? Because of course, like I could have done really well in 9th and 10th grade and just done terribly in 11th, which doesn't fare well for me. So make sure that those grades are up. um, yeah, that's basically it. Do you have any like more specific questions that you would like me to address?
No, not really. I think that's a good answer.
Cool.
So have you done any online courses?
At this point, I have taken a few online courses. I took a, coup- a couple online courses, both of this, or rather, my first summer and then my third summer. But they were like university courses. I took them from Berkeley for credit. Um, yeah, if that's the answer. I didn't actually take any online courses when I was applying. I didn't like do any Coursera or anything like that. I never really found that super attractive for me. Yeah.
Okay. So which universities in the US do you think would be comparable to Berkeley for studying engineering and computer science?
So I think for the specific fields of engineering and computer science, Berkeley is consistently ranks as like the top five sort of university. In my personal experience, I would say that the university that sort of compare in terms of rigor and quality of program would be Stanford, MIT, Carnegie Mellon, and I guess yeah, I think those would be my main picks. You could probably throw Harvard in there as well.
Okay, great. So what advice would you give to students who are thinking of pursuing engineering or doing computer science in the future?
I mean, so if you broadly want to get into computer science and engineering, like it would be really great if you had a focus like from before you get into university of like, hey, I want to do, let's say, computer science, and maybe I want to do game dev, right? in which case maybe you have experience programming, or you've built games on the side. Or like for me, the case was like robotics, right? So I did a lot of programming related to robotics, and I did a lot of competitions there. So that would be nice. That's a nice to have, I would say. But the most important thing in my mind that you can do to prepare yourself for studying engineering and computer science is focusing on your fundamentals in maths, physics, and communication, I would say. So the thing I want to draw your attention to is that I didn't mention computer science there. I don't think it's necessary to take computer science in 11th and 12th if you want to study computer science later on. Most high school computer science curricula are not very good, and most likely you're going to have to learn all of it from scratch anyway. Your time is better spent building your fundamental technical skills, which come more from stuff like mathematics and physics. So I would say a lot of people sort of say, "Hey, I have like very little computer science background," or like I haven't been programming since I was 12, or like I didn't take computer science in 11th, 12th. I don't think those are super important things. They're nice to have in addition to the fundamentals, but the fundamentals are what are really important. So focus on the maths, focus on the physics, um, and focus on. So the last thing I mentioned was communications. I think that's super important as well. I think a lot of people sort of neglect the fact that to be a good engineer, you also have to be a good communicator. You also need to be able to sort of, you know, lead your team, even in just like a technical setting, right? You have to be able to take charge and communicate your ideas effectively. Otherwise, they will never get implemented, right? In the real world, it's all about sort of, you're never going to work on your own on anything. Ultimately, the idea is that you want to be able to convince other people that what you have what you have to say is worth doing. And for that, you need to be able to communicate your ideas effectively. So that's super important as well. And that comes from things like, doing stuff outside of school, maybe doing like team activities. If you so like for me, I did robotics competitions, which helped me a lot with that, because those are team things. You could do stuff like olympiads are great for this as well. Like if you do like maths olympiads or physics olympiads where you reach sort of the national level, like you're going to be doing that in a team as well. So there are a lot of things you can do to build that, but the teamwork, communication, leadership skills are super important as well, I would say.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you all the very best.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. And I wish you all the best as well.
Thank you.